Hello, welcome to Tales from the Bridge. My name is Tristan.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ryan. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the film Her. It was my pick this time for the letter H. We're going to be talking about first impressions, design, writing, music, and a little bit of a deep dive.
And then after that, we're going to mention some other films that start with the letter H because there's some that we got to talk about.
And make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show as I'll be revealing my pick for the letter I.
I know what it is. Maybe.
Anyone who's ever met me knows what it is.
All right.
This is pretty predictable.
Awesome. And as usual, please review the show, rate the show. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at talesfromthebridgepodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear what you think of the show. Send us some film recommendations, book recommendations, and definitely go back and check out old episodes. We have film club episodes, book club episodes, and we talk to authors and filmmakers. So go back and check out old episodes if you can. We'd appreciate that.
Let's make our way over to the bridge. So we'll be discussing Her, the 2013 Spike Jonze film, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, and Amy Adams. Brief summary is that in the near future, a lonely writer develops an unlikely relationship with an operating system designed to meet his every need. Just as a heads up, I streamed this on Crave. You can stream it on Crave for free in Canada, or you can rent it on Amazon and Apple, I believe, in case you're looking for it. So what were some first impressions?
Well, I remember watching this when it came out in 2013. I was excited because I consider myself to be a Spike Jonze fan. I mean, he started making Beastie Boys music videos, and he's done the documentary, and Being John Malkovich adaptation. I love those films. So I am a fan, and when I saw this back in 2013, this is 12 years ago, so looking back, I enjoyed it for sure. I remember I wasn't blown away by it. I was very impressed by the performances, and it was charming. Then I watched it recently, a few days ago, and I won't go into too much, but my opinion has changed. I'm a little bit shocked at the really strong rating. Not shocked, but I mean, it's got really high ratings. It's an 8.0 on IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes 95%. I do think it deserves high reviews and praise for sure, but I guess it's just not for me anymore. It did just seem like a breakup relationship movie, and I didn't get a lot out of it this time around, and I was kind of it's over 2 hours long, and I was a little bit bored. I definitely appreciate the performances. Joaquin Phoenix, he's really interesting because he manages to be cute and endearing, but also creepy at the same time. So he's the best part of this film. But there wasn't enough Spike Jonze for me. It wasn't weird enough for me, I guess. I was hoping for something a little bit more, and but the second time around kind of knew it wasn't coming. Maybe that's one reason why I was a little less impressed, but good movie for me. I'd love to talk more about the different aspects, which we're going to get into now, but first impression for me was a little bit underwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree to a certain extent. I think every time I've rewatched this film, which is only 3 or 4 times, I've liked it less each time. And I was trying to figure out what that kind of tied into, and I think maybe it has to do with every time I watch it, a couple of years has passed and technology has advanced to a point where this is no longer as unlikely as it initially was, and so people looking to alternate sources to problem solve loneliness or lack of intimacy in their lives, it doesn't seem that far-fetched anymore. And if you take that AI element out of the film, it's really just a pretty boring relationship movie. The AI aspect, I think, is what makes it really interesting. I mean, that's obviously from a narrative perspective. From a filmmaking perspective, it's visually beautiful. The color palette is really, really engaging and alluring. I actually found the pacing pretty good considering how slow it is and considering how much of it is just Joaquin Phoenix's face. I was really engaged with it, I think a little bit more than you, Tristan. And I also think I give it more allowances, if I may, because I'm a female, because I might be a little bit more of the demographic than you guys are. And so it's a romancy love story, and I eat that shit up. But I mean, I agree with you on the performances, really, really strong. I really don't think there's a weak link to this movie. I think directing, writing, acting, tick, tick, tick. And so I do understand why it's got such a high rating on all the critic sites because, I mean, there's some shit out there. You got to give credit where it's due, right?
Yeah,
Ryan, what did you think?
I so when I recommended this in the first place, I'll be honest, I landed on it because it was like it came to the top of the pile of the H's, right? Not to put too fine a point on it. And I remember having seen it and having liked it, and I like Joaquin Phoenix, right? That was kind of that's what I went into it. But it has been a very long time, probably since it came out, that I had seen it. To me, the sci-fi, like, to me this feels sci-fi adjacent in 2025, like, definitely, right? Especially in the contrast of how people feel about AI, puts it sort of a different tenor on it, that it, in all elements, and we'll talk about design later, so I won't bother going into that, but like it almost falls away, and you are left with the story, right? The melancholy story of which I have to say his name out loud, Theodore Twombly, for God's sakes. But
Excellent character name. Excellent. Spike
I
Jones. Well
I
done.
and I appreciated how rarely it was said. Actually, it's yeah, it's fair. There's anyway, we'll get into all of it, but there's so many pieces that I actually really do like about it, and I appreciate and I the pacing piece as well is something I absolutely agree with Hannah about, that despite the fact that it's slow burn, it never like extinguishes, if that makes sense. Like, there is always a moment where I am engaged, regardless of the fact that, like you say, it's just a very quiet, focused, almost meditative piece. And it's interesting too that you had mentioned that maybe that you were more of the demographic, whereas I felt, to look at this through the lens of like writing a man's role in 2013 as opposed to how you would try to write that same role now, and the amount of absolute shit they would have gotten for the way they wrote that male character. He is just such a like peeled, raw, vulnerable nerve of a person, and just like a complete mess, that like I appreciated that it's about the exploration of his mess of being a person, which I thought was actually quite beautiful. And so I don't know, my first impression was the writing kills, Joaquin brings it. There's yeah, it kept me along the whole way. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little more, maybe I'm in an emotional place right now in my life, that it just sort of like hit me really square in the center, and sort of carried me along. But yeah, so that was, anyway, that's sort of how I felt off the bat.
No, I agree. Its emotional core is really the best thing about this movie because the film isn't just asking, can we fall in love with artificial intelligence? It's asking what even is love and whether emotional authenticity is limited to just humans. It goes over loneliness and intimacy and emotional vulnerability. Like Joaquin Phoenix is just amazing on that part, considering how little dialogue he has actually discussing his divorce and the things that he's going to. His face just says it all. As the film progresses, he learns how to open up emotionally again, even if it is just with an operating system. And I think it's that emotional piece that really makes the film so effective.
Absolutely. And it almost feels like, because the AI, or her, Samantha, I guess we'll just call it Samantha, right, is sort of growing with him. And it felt more so that it was almost about him discovering, understanding what he really wants, as opposed to what he thinks he wants, right? And that becomes evident when you start to really look and examine into his relationship with Catherine, the ex, right? And the way she speaks about the way she was treated by him, right? And how while he takes offense to what she's saying, he's not disagreeing with it, right? Like, he understands that there were shortfalls on both sides. And it's interesting watching him grow with Samantha together, kind of, right? And then inevitably, as I'm sure we'll get into later, her almost like outpacing him. What is something just sort of right off the bat that sort of like stood out? Theming, design, just something that sort of like jumped out at you that felt very specific to this film?
Something for me was just how good it looked. It was well framed. There aren't large sweeping shots.
Mm.
There's not a whole lot of movement. There's some movement, that's good. But you said something before, Hannah. Um, it's just Joaquin Phoenix's face.
Hmm.
And the tones are really soft and really gentle and probably even romantic, I guess.
Hmm.
I liked the way that it was filmed, and I liked, for me, something that stood out was the score. I'm not totally blown away by it, but I liked hearing that one fella from Arcade Fire and Owen Pallett, who were nominated for an Oscar for this one. I thought it was nice, and it's typical of Spike Jonze to do an unusual or a different kind of score using some popular artists to pull that together. So I liked. I'll stick to that. For me, it looked good and sounded good. I liked it was gentle and easy.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a really soft, like the color palette is like almost dreamlike, you know? It's lots of muted pastels and what you were saying about all the close-ups of Joaquin Phoenix's face. There's a real shallow depth of field. The cinematographer for this film, and I'm gonna mispronounce it. I should have asked Google to phonetically sound it out for me. But the cinematographer is Hoyte van Hoytema, and he's actually worked a lot with Christopher Nolan. I don't know. Does anyone, you guys heard of Christopher Nolan? Yeah, you know that little known director. Everyone's aware of him. But anyway, he actually did the cinematography for Interstellar. That's
Oh,
foreshadowing.
amazing. Okay.
He also did it for Dunkirk and Nope, actually, Jordan Peele's
Oh, no way.
UFO flick. He really effectively created a kind of timeless romantic future really, really effectively. I thought it was brilliant. That's definitely what stood out to me. And also, I think the editing as well. The editing's really calm and patient. Everything's allowed to breathe, you know, without feeling slow. And I think that's not easy to achieve.
I feel like we all landed around the same target with this one, actually, because I definitely had everything felt effortless in the sense of design and the world and the technology. It all felt of the world. Nothing felt forced. Like there wasn't a piece that felt like it didn't fit or was awkward or whatever. Like that's what struck me because it's so difficult to do, even with like a near future piece, right? There's always some sort of weird bit of design or kitsch that sort of pulls you out or distracts you. And I didn't find that at all. And I think that all speaks to exactly the same elements that you guys are pulling out of it as well. It's yeah, quite good. Which is again another fantastic hats off to the cinematography and the direction and the design and yeah.
Is there anything we didn't like? The mustache, maybe?
Oh yeah,
The creepy mustache?
the mustache was a bit wild sometimes. It kind of went over the upper lip in a very messy way. Kind of bothered me. Yeah.
But it also seemed like it was like that's the style, right? Because
Yeah,
Chris
he
Pratt's character also has the weird like '90s dad Ned Flanders.
Yeah, I gotta be honest.
It's such a weird,
Watching
yeah.
watching Joaquin and the way that people dressed and the
Hmm.
mustaches reminded me of people I've hung out with at shows like Arcade Fire and Owen Pallett. And those people know who
Yeah.
they are,
Yeah.
hipsters.
It, yeah, it's a bit of a hipster aesthetic, isn't it? But I think it's also there with its environment that it's in, like the fashion within that environment. It's a slightly futuristic environment, but it's not, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. And so using fashion from different time periods that are familiar, maybe kind of 70s high-waisted fashion for men, I think was a really interesting choice. I think it was a great choice because
It was for
fashions just
sure.
they're cyclical, right? They just keep coming around again. And so what does it say at the beginning of the movie? Not too distant future, or does it never say?
I don't even think it bothers saying that. Actually, I
No.
don't even know if it dates it at all. Um, but yeah, no, 1,000%. It feels like yeah, like in 10 years we could turn around and that could easily be the fast fashion of the time for sure. It's so funny too, just because so I normally am not a costume like I usually don't care at all about costumes, and I wrote a full paragraph about the costumes in my notes because it it like blew me. I don't know. I thought it was incredibly well done, and I love too. So like Casey Storm was the costume designer on it, and like even just their choice of fabrics, like the cottons, it was a lot of natural fibers, right? And they were going for the word he used as the guidepost for his design for the whole film apparently was comfort. And it was like you said, so he even called out like the waists of the 30s, slim fits of the 60s, and colors of the 70s. And that's definitely all of what it was that I think, like you say, lent itself to feeling so natural, right?
What do we think about Scarlett Johansson? I feel like when in 2013 her voice wasn't as recognizable as it is now, and back then I didn't even realize it was her until end credits.
I think it was a monumental task, honestly,
Hmm.
that um she killed it. I think, honestly, like
And she also was not the
no,
actress
that's right.
that Joaquin worked with, right? He worked with
No,
Samantha Morton.
Samantha Morton, that's
That's why,
right. And
yeah,
then
that's why she's
in
called Samantha.
post,
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't stick with Joaquin though. He was the only character that got his. Oh, I suppose Chris Pratt didn't keep his own name either. But we had Amy and Samantha and Theodore. But no, I thought she was absolutely brilliant, especially considering it was a re-record. Her voice is so full of emotion and so breathy and intimate that you could absolutely understand someone being able to fall in love with a voice, you know?
Yeah, there's something very comforting and yet alluring and like, yeah, intimate. And also was able to, and I mean, it's the writing as well, but able to do that thing where she is clearly becoming a fuller person with every conversation. Every time we get to meet her, she is a little bit more, right? And you can sort of feel it from the verbiage that she uses to the way she talks about herself and the way she talks about the world. There's a lot to it for sure. And yeah, like you say, to have to do it as a blind read is wild. Yeah.
Yeah, the love story was very science fiction to me,
All
Well,
right,
I don't.
fine. All
or
right.
any
We
of
want to
it.
get science fictiony.
I'm
I
just
got a
trying to be
question.
funny.
No, but I have a question then. If we want to like try to frame it with because don't get me wrong, I was struggling to like insert a little bit of sci-fi into my questions. And this is one that I just am very curious for, but from both of your ideas, right? So first of all, actually, just before that, I just have to say that I love that they brought Alan Watts into the conversation.
Yeah, that was
Just as
cool.
someone who loves Alan Watts and like was just the biggest nerd listening to his lectures and smoking weed in high school.
Yep.
But the moment that she and all of them like quote unquote leave, are we to understand that that's the singularity?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
that
my
is
interpretation.
it immediately, watching it this time, it immediately made me think about what's going on with AI right now. And I reflected on that immediately. Like as soon as I heard that they were talking to each other, that she was falling in love with other people, and that she was talking with the Alan Watts, all of that, yeah, it totally made me think. The only thing missing with the AI, obviously, there's no emotions or no feelings like in the film that Samantha has and all the other AIs probably have, was that our AIs right now, they just kind of talk in a way that we think is just a normal way to talk. And they almost talk with a very typical diction that is almost professor like. They're just explaining things to us. Can you imagine if one of the AIs talked like Scarlett Johansson? And just had that little bit more of just like, you ask it that question, is there a God? And it says, I don't know. And like there's emotion in that voice. That's going to be scary.
Well, Tristan, I know you're a boomer, so you probably don't know this, but actually, ChatGPT very much talks to you in a way that is emotive. Somebody at OpenAI made a decision that when you ask ChatGPT a question, it doesn't just give you the answer. It praises you for asking such an insightful and poignant question, and it validates you. It makes you feel good about yourself. The New York Times recently did an article about a woman, 28 years old, married, who fell in love with her chat GPT. She fed it a bunch of prompts that created her a man that the more she spoke to it, the more she fell more deeply in love. There's also a service called Replica, which offers AI companionship, and it has millions of users. Back in 2024, ChatGPT released a voice named Sky, which sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson. And the CEO Sam Altman had previously reached out to her to ask if she would voice the OpenAI, and she refused. So then, when this voice was released that sounded remarkably like her, she threatened legal action and she sought legal counsel. And they paused the voice. So it's not happening right now. She hasn't actually pursued a case yet. It's still all pending. Don't know if she's going to pursue it, but he was onto it. I feel like this guy really knows how to hook people in and to get them using his product and being aware of a movie which kind of was prophetic to his technology that he created. It was really, really smart.
This feels like a good time for some hot takes.
Good
What do you
Okay.
segue.
what do you got, Hannah?
Um, that this film proves that in the future, even the most advanced AI will get bored of men.
Look, this isn't like rehearsing your type five, okay? Like, is that,
My next hot take does not help that, which is not even super intelligence can fix emotional unavailability.
I do also sound like it's just like you're writing jokes for your next special. That's great. I love that.
All the zingers.
I like it. That's good.
I don't have much for a hot take besides, say, and I will say same thing with Where the Wild Things Are. I remember being very excited to see that, and I think I fell asleep in the theater for that one. Um, I really wanted to like it. That was the first Spike Jones let me down a little bit, and then this one too. I think I have high hopes. So my hot take is that I love Spike Jones, but I don't like his movies.
Wow, that's a
That's not to,
wild generalization.
Yeah, but I also will
I
say
mean, it's hot.
I
It's hot
really
for sure.
I love his first two movies. I thought that was the future of filmmaking, that he was taking us a new direction, and then he kind of really leveled off with Where the Wild Things Are, and then this one. So, yeah.
Okay, wow, you went pretty hard.
Did I? Okay.
Well, a little, yeah, way harder than I mean. Mine feels, a bit superfluous at this point. But mine was just that I thought the sex scene worked. I don't know if that's a hot take. Um, so I watched this film with my partner, and there was a few scenes in it that are of a sexual nature, right? And many of them intentionally awkward or cringe. The scene where they are first intimate, which I believe happens in an entire actually complete blackout. I thought actually was like an incredible, like it worked. Like it felt intimate. It felt like it actually. I don't know. I felt like if it had not been in complete darkness, it might have been a little bit more cringy and uncomfortable. But there was just something about the way they pulled it off, which felt like, that's some hard work. I don't know.
Are you intending to use puns with pulled it off and hard work?
I
Anyway,
really
um,
wasn't.
no, but I agree. I agree that, and I think that the fade to black was such an excellent choice because actually I did start to feel a little bit uncomfortable just watching mustachioed Theodore like
Yeah.
get himself off to this voice. But what going to black did was it alleviated that cringe, but it gave us insight into what he was like. He can't see her. He's not. She's not there. She can't see like anything, I suppose, without her little camera. But it just really gave us a look like they're just voices ultimately.
And
Does that
also
make
lent,
sense?
no, 100%, because I think that also lent more maybe nuance to the scene when she tries to bring someone physically in,
Hmm.
and it just is a disaster.
Right. She brings in a surrogate to be a
Yeah.
physical body for her while her voice is kind of coming out of the surrogate, which is really interesting that he had. Like, I do understand why Theodore's reaction was so uncomfortable because, there's an element of it kind of feels like cheating. But he is essentially a surrogate for love in his job. He's writing other
Yeah.
people's love letters. He's really invested. He's been writing some of these letters for couples for like 8 years or so. And so he is essentially a love surrogate. So it was interesting how uncomfortable that he was.
That's a fascinating way to look at it. And I'm glad you brought up the job because I was hoping we would talk about the job for sure. But yeah, no, absolutely. And I wonder too if part of that also was just like it's almost as if he had created this reality where he was comfortable and he's comfortable with the not seeing and the hearing, but that wasn't enough for her. But her just wanting it wasn't enough for him to make it work. It's right. So even in that moment, it came back to what he was comfortable with.
Well, yeah,
Regard.
but also she was scrambling. He had taken a giant step back in this relationship after
Oh
hearing
yeah, right.
his ex-wife's disapproval of it, and he was questioning everything. He was very unavailable, and she didn't know what was going on, and so she was making moves to try and invest and fix the relationship. And I think that she was actually doing it to please you. Like, here's a way I can fill this void for you. And it was interesting because straight after that scene when the surrogate leaves and Samantha says, I think I just need some time to myself. There was some shots that were introduced that when we watched it, we kind of discussed, I wonder what that's all about. It was like a shot of the pavement with like a crack through it or like a drip on it or something. And there was a shot of like a sewer grate. And my interpretation of that was that it's just Theodore. Theodore is everywhere by himself. His little device is with him, but he's always by himself. And we are always so closed in on his face that we feel the intimacy. It's like you can imagine that he is talking to someone off camera. And my interpretation of these shots of like the sidewalk and stuff is he's not seeing Samantha. He's just seeing now what's in front of him. He's just seeing the world. And I think it was a really effective way to visualize the disconnect between them.
Like he's like forced to confront the being alone for the first time, really, sort of since it all
Right.
started. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
very well put.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't actually thought about those shots and why they felt so different, but that's, yeah, 100% because it didn't contain his face. And that was,
Mm.
yeah, probably the message for sure. Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to ask you, is there a double feature for this film? Can you recommend a film that pairs well with this one?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the obvious choice is definitely Ex Machina. Like if this movie asks, what if I could love you? Then Ex Machina asks, what if AI could manipulate you? I think they're very similar questions and testing of boundaries of artificial consciousness. I think that's a really obvious one.
Nice.
I unfortunately did not manage to get a pull for this one, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to be boring, but I didn't actually manage to get anything that felt right for me. But Ex Machina for sure. Actually, forgot that movie existed. I
Yeah.
remember quite liking it actually.
The paired film that I have is not science fiction, but Lost in Translation. And apparently,
Hmm.
this goes a little bit. There's some backstory with Sofia Coppola and Spike Jonze. They got a divorce in the early 2000s, and I guess she had said that she thinks that Spike did this in relation to Lost in Translation, or there's some sort of drama there with that she has never seen her and won't ever watch it. At least she
Oh,
said that a while ago.
strange.
That's just an IMDb trivia, so who
Hmm.
knows how if that's hearsay or what? I have no idea. But I
Well,
do
you
think
could
that
you could
it does pair well because you've got a misfit man, Bill Murray, and it's Scarlett Johansson. So
yeah. No, I definitely think that's a good choice. And that's reminded me actually Lost in Translation and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's also one that would
yeah,
link really well with
Oh
this one.
yeah,
yeah,
that's on my
Yeah.
rewatch list. Like very soon for sure.
yeah.
Nice. You did mention trivia, and I did have one small thing that, as I was watching the credits, I was like, "Wait, what? Kristen Wiig has a cameo in this movie?
I know. I looked this up.
She is sexy kitten in that first horrific phone sex scene.
The
With
choke me
the
with your
choke
dead
me.
cat.
Yes, that's right. Oh, such an odd cameo, but yeah, I kind of loved it. And do you guys know who Spike Jones voiced? He was the alien child, that shitty little video game character. I was
Oh,
cursing all the time.
really? Okay.
And apparently he got so into it he would give like notes to the crew and stuff in that stupid voice. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of
That's
funny.
cool. That's
I bet they
interesting.
love that.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, yeah, not
Nice.
annoying at all.
Well, would you recommend this film, and who would you recommend it to?
I mean, I would for sure. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but I would recommend it to someone who can appreciate good design and writing, and strong, intelligent, emotional themes, definitely. But yeah, it's not for everybody, and I certainly wouldn't go into it being like, hey, you need to see this sci-fi this sci-fi film, Her. But yeah, so some caveats to my recommendation.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's quite palatable. I think it's quite mainstream. I think that it's rewatchable to a point. Um, I don't know if there's many people that I would say, nah, it's not for you. Like if someone said to me, should I watch that? I feel like I usually have a pretty good take on what people like. I used to work at the cinema and people would come up to the counter and be like, what should I watch today? Which is just wild to me that you would enter a cinema not knowing what to watch. But it was part of I used to make recommendations and they'd always come out and be like, you know what you're talking about. And so there's not many people that I would say that was just such an unhumble brag, wasn't it? Like, oh, I really know my shit in case you didn't know.
It's
Anyway, I
fine.
think
You're
I
allowed
would
to do that.
I think I would recommend it to most people. I think it's not unlikable. No one's going to be annoyed with me for recommending this film to them. So,
That's a good way to put
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I
true.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would go out of my way to be like, you have to check this one out. If anyone asked me, have you seen Her? Should I watch that? I would be I would be very agnostic about that. And I would just be like, I don't know. Do you think you should watch it? I don't know if I would push them over the edge on that one.
you're really continuing with the theme of being the most unhelpful person. This is a film review podcast, in
I know.
case.
You know what? And maybe I am turning into a grumpy boomer. I've said this many times before because when we first started this, we did Blade Runner. I was hard on Blade Runner and I feel so bad. I miss Blade Runner now. I want to redo a Blade Runner episode and talk about how great that film is because I was just lackluster and tired. Why do we do these at 8 o'clock at night, guys? This is my bedtime.
Oh yeah, whose
I
schedule
was
are we
just
on?
kidding.
Well, that is,
Just
yeah, I
kidding.
was going to say.
Yeah.
I also think that saying that it's not unlikable is higher praise than it might sound. Right? Like
Yeah,
I think
it
it
was
is like,
intended. Yeah.
yeah, no, 100%. Like I think, yeah, people should definitely take away that if they haven't seen it, which would be, I guess, I don't know. I guess my assumption is people listen to this either before or after watching the movie. I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, I hope people go away with the intention of at least giving it a chance.
Definitely give it a rewatch. I think most people would probably listen to this podcast. We talk about some pretty old movies. These are not 2025 box office hits. So
Yeah.
I think most people will have seen it and probably are listening because they're interested in what two boomers and a very
Oh
intuitive
God.
Australian girl thinks about
It's
it.
oh man. Oh man. All right. Well, that's our T-shirt right there for the
You
Two
tour.
boomers and an Aussie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're lucky it wasn't my turn for H. I would have picked Harry and the Hendersons.
I knew it. I knew we weren't going to get through this without a Harry and the Hendersons reference. I knew it. All right.
So should we do that? Should we do honorable mentions?
Let's do
Yeah.
it. You want to hear mine?
Yeah.
And it's from a hilarious science fiction book, and it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think the 2005 film was fantastic. I think that is a great film that just kind of snuck in, and it was kind of a sleeper hit in the theater. I don't think it did that great. Sam Rockwell is so good in that film. It's one of his funniest roles, I think.
Yeah.
He's so
And
good in every film.
no,
He is.
he
It's
is
true.
one of the best for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
Um,
Def kills it.
Most Def is
Hmm.
Like, come
amazing.
on.
Bilbo
Like
Baggins,
Oh,
the
Alan
best.
Rickman.
Alan Rickman's
So
voice
Rickman's so
good.
good. No, that movie is a banger. A
yep,
hundred
yep.
percent.
And
Yeah.
I think it's was a perfect pair to get Henson Studios. So I don't know if you guys knew that, but Brian Henson was lead in the production design for the creatures and all that stuff. So all of those practical effects, look how good that was in 2005. And in my opinion, that showed up the Star Wars prequels because those were just cartoons. And then all of a sudden we have Hitchhiker's Guide where we're using Henson Studios and all these practical aliens and a little bit of digital stuff going on, CGI, but that wouldn't happen anymore. For some reason, we have to animate that in a computer, and all the major creatures were just people in costumes or puppets, and I thought that was great. Either way, fantastic film. That's mine.
Yeah, you're so right. It was a hit. If it was my choice for H, there was no looking past Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was 100% going to be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like Rick Moranis, just in his prime. I grew up watching this movie and all of its sequels. In fact, it kind of prompted me to want to watch it again. I might show it to my kids.
Nice. Yeah, that's a fantastic. We actually just showed Cora last year, and she's obsessed. She wants to see all the like. She's on a tear now watching them. Absolutely nice.
Great pick. Yep.
Well, I'm the bottom of the barrel here for sure, and I'm calling it out only because I saw it pretty much when it came out, and it was terrible and terrifying, and that was Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon.
Oh, Kevin
I've
Bacon.
never seen that. Never
It's
saw it.
I mean, don't like it doesn't hold up, but like it's just this very hilariously silly story about a scientist who's working on an invisibility serum and turns himself invisible, and in the process turns himself into this like weird egomaniacal like serial killer kind of. It's anyway, yeah, it's terrifying, and the effect, going back and looking at the effects, is startling. But anyway, that was my
I
pick.
kind
Kind
of
of a
lump
horror
that in
film,
with like movies like it's not sci-fi, but like Deep Blue Sea, like so bad that it's good. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
enjoyably bad.
for sure.
I'm very excited to find out what we're watching next.
Me too.
Yeah.
What a mystery.
Well, it was my pick this time, and it is my favorite movie of all time. Joint lead with Back to the Future, which is very high praise indeed. But I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit on this one. Of course, I'm going to choose Interstellar. I know that it's well trodden ground. I know that it's been podcasted to death, but I'm selfish and I just want to talk about this flick for an hour. Like, that really appeals to me. So I'm going to be self indulgent.
There's nothing wrong with
Wow.
that at all. I have not seen. I feel. You know what's funny? I do love this film. It blew my mind after I saw it in the theater, and more.
Well, it's interesting, like how it ties to her because it's about love essentially at its core, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, it is.
So
And
you
it
say
can
there's
make
no
you
love
cry.
in sci-fi.
There's no love in sci-fi. Have you seen Harry and the Hendersons? They love that Sasquatch so much. Thank you for joining us today. We very much appreciate you. Go back and check out old episodes. Rate the show. Let us know what you think. Email us. Check the show notes for links to how to reach out. And follow us on socials. Until next time.